Okay, Likkutei, Drushim, Shemini, Atzeret, page Pei Gimel, first column. Got it? Okay, the passage said, "Vayem Shemini Atzeret Tia Lachem." The 8th day of Sukkot, it should be a holding back for you. Hinik says, his left side is under my head and his right hand will hug me. So I understand what it means. What it means, understand under the head of Hashem. He says, that 1 second of tshuva ma'asim tevim in this world is better than the whole olam haba. And he said, this concept is explained many times in different places. But now the Alter Rebbe said, what are we going to elaborate on in this Maimer? He says like this. There's a story in the Gemara. There was a debate going on for a very long time in the Beis Medrash. What is greater, learning greater or action greater? And this went on for a long time. Nimnu v'gamru, they finally came to the conclusion, Gadol Talmud, learning is greater because it brings to action. Which, by the way, doesn't solve the issue at all. Because you're saying learning is greater because it brings to action, which means action is greater, but you're saying learning is greater. So, like, which one is it? So he says, the well-known question is, you're saying that learning is greater because it brings to action. That means action is greater. So the Gemara answered, learning is greater because it brings to action. But that means that implies that action is greater. So he says like this. We need to understand what does it mean, the action of mitzvahs. Now there's 2 halves of mitzvahs, of the 613. Half of doing and half of not doing. 248 doings and 365 not doings. So he says, Kinamach Pikudim says in the Zohar that 248 mitzvahs are the Machiv, the Malka, the 248 limbs of Hashem. What does it mean, the limbs of Hashem? Hashem has no image of a body. Hashem doesn't have a body. You were saying that 248 mitzvahs are the 248 limbs of Hashem. Since when does Hashem have limbs? So he says, what's the inyan of this? We say every day in davening, it's a pasuk. Give emes to Yaakov, chesed to Avraham, that you have sworn to our forefathers from the days of yesteryear. So he says, what is emes? Shanavi mishabeach, that the Navi is praising Shenitin LeYaakov midas emes, to give Yaakov the level of emes. Then Alter Rebbe is asking a bunch of questions. But here the Alter Rebbe is asking a question. Number 1, what does it mean, limbs of Hashem? Second, it says, Titin emes LeYaakov, give emes to Yaakov. What is emes that we're giving to Yaakov? What do you mean emes? We're giving Yaakov emes. What does that mean? So he says, Hinik, if it says in the pasuk, it's in Shmuel, but we read it on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, Kikel Deis Hashem. God is the God of knowledges, plural. Deis. What does it mean? Pirush, Shekel Beis Deis Hashem, so to speak, it's composed of 2 understandings. Kimimata Lamaila, there's, in other words, like this. There's Hashem's, the way Hashem looks at things, Hashem's perspective, and there's our perspective. What we see is ha'olam gashmi nira leyesh v'davar. Gashmis exists. You don't have to ask somebody, give me a proof that this is existing. I know it exists, there's no question it exists. And yet the Ruchni is from above, Bechinas ayin is nothing. Ruchnius is not tangible by us. In our world, if it's tangible, we got it. If it's not tangible, it's abstract, we don't got it. So from our perspective, world is yesh, and ruchnius that it comes from is ayin. It's nothing. Umasha ma'ahu ayin yois lefi sheina musig yois is not understood. V'chol k'mesha kod v'chol ma'iti matzah. So he says, v'chol zeh hu barkeinu anachnu sheichni mata. Us humans down here, that's the way we see things. World exists, spirituality we got to think about. That when it comes to Hashem, everything is nothing. It's the opposite. The way Hashem's perspective is, He exists and we don't. There's nothing. There's nothing, only Hashem. On the contrary, the lower it is, the more nothing it is. Okay? What it means is like this. From our perspective, world exists, God we got to think about. It's not a given. From Hashem's perspective, He exists. The lower it comes, meaning the more it's separated and feels itself as a separate entity, the more nothing it is. The more nothing it is. And therefore, this is what it means. Kel de'ais Hashem. Hashem is a God of knowledge, is plural. There's two things. Meaning, even within Hashem, there's two perspectives. Hashem looks at the world as our perspective and His perspective. Okay? Therefore, like we said, we learned this many times. There's a mime that Rebbe Marash, famous mime that Rebbe Marash asks a question. Is the world real? Maybe it's bluff. Maybe it's bluff. We say, there's a pasuk, we say it every day in davening, in Ein Kelokenu. We say, Ain't sword, Kelokenu. There's no rock, there's no salvation like our God. So, in the Medrash it says, Ain't Sayar Kelokenu. There's no artist like God. There's no painter like God. What does it mean? A real good artist make things look very real. When you have a good artist, it will look real. If you ever go into those like IMAX theater and whatever these places, they have it, that you stand in the middle of a room and there's pictures going on around you. You ever know what I'm talking about? There's pictures going on around you, and you're standing in the middle, and that looks so real. It's like you're there.
Of nature.
It's called cinerama.
Whatever it's called. But it's like, it's so real. But it's not, it's fake. So the question is, maybe God is such a great artist, He makes this look real, but it's really fake.
Illusion. Both concepts can be very true, very valid.
But maybe it is. Maybe you don't exist, I don't exist, the table, it's all...
What has got to do with us? We need to accept...
No, I'll tell you what the difference is.
Yes. For our...
So the answer is... One second. So the answer is, you know how I know the world exists? There's two proofs. One from Chumash and one from Mishnah. How do we know the world is real? Because Torah, which is emes, Torah's emes, says, Bereshit bara Elokim, Hashem created a world. If Torah's emes says God created a world, there is a world. That means, from Elokim's perspective, there is a world. Bereshit bara Elokim. From the level of God, that's Elokim, concealment, confinement, nature, all that, there is a world. Secondly, there's a Mishnah Sanhedrin that says the following. It says about witchcraft. If somebody does witchcraft, they get capital punishment. So the Mishnah says like this. If somebody does real magic, then you kill him. If he does he makes an illusional black magic, then you don't kill him because he really didn't do it. So the question that Marash says, if the world is not real anyway, so what's the difference between fake magic and real magic? It's all fake anyway. So obviously Torah says there is a world. The world exists. We say, Ein Eid Milvadei. The world doesn't exist. There's only God. There's God's perspective. But the answer is, even from Hashem's perspective, it says, Kel Deus Hashem. Hashem has these two understandings. That means not only Hashem has one and we have one. Hashem exists, we don't. And our world, we exist, and Hashem we got to think about. No, in Hashem himself, there is to, because if Hashem wouldn't have that as concept, we couldn't think that way. Everything has to come from Hashem. If Hashem wouldn't have that concept, that world exists, then we couldn't have that. Where does it come from? Okay? Why is it relevant to us? It's very important to us. Because we need to understand the world, to us, that looks real, from our perspective, is really real. And that's Torah.
That's our reality.
But that's what the Rebbe is going to be, the Rebbe is going to be explaining, what's the unique action, level of action. Action, when you take an esrig, lulav, sukkah, let's speak seasonal. You have a lulav and esrig, and you're doing a real mitzvah. If that lulav would be a fake lulav, then you couldn't do the mitzvah. You can't do a mitzvah with a fake lulav. An imaginary lulav. You make a bracha, you're doing a sin of saying Hashem's name in vain. So a Jew has to know that the world is real. In other words, there is a physical world. But the physical world, it's not something removed from Hashem, separated from Hashem. It's an extension of Hashem. That means the Jew has to know that there's not spiritual godliness and there's physical world, and they're not interconnected. A Jew has to know that the physical is a reality, and the reality of the physical is reality, that it's only God. It's only godliness. It's not something separated or exclusive from Hashem. It's actually an extension of God. Let me do this. Because in our lives, people, religious people, will separate business from shul. Shul, you daven, you learn, you do mitzvahs, it's holy. Business has nothing to do with shul.
Are you talking about referring to spirituality versus tangible matter?
I'm talking about in people's mind, from a people's mind. Torah mitzvahs is Torah mitzvahs, and business is business. According to this, the Jew understands that business is equal godliness to davening and learning and doing mitzvahs. That is a very major fundamental difference. Because the person says, listen, when I serve guys, when I eat, let me enjoy my meal and let me, and enjoy it. And God is in the shul, God is in the business, in the learning, in the davening, in the mitzvahs, in the tefillin, but not in the food. Chassidus comes along and says, no, the food is equally godliness like the davening and learning. And the truth is, it's even higher than davening and learning.
That's why when this type of talk happens, the person who's listening has to be strong. When you tell somebody who's weak that this is an illusion, they go nuts.
No, it's not an illusion. That's what we're telling him. The world is not an illusion. Suffering is real. If a person suffers, you can't say, come on, it's a bluff. It's virtual suffering. No, it's real.
It says in the books that they write, this word is an illusion. I can show it to you.
Yeah, but what it means an illusion is an illusion that it's a separate entity outside of God.
It can be. It is all one.
It's all one. But God made it in a way that we should think it's yesh mi'ayin, that tangible, and that is questionable.
Do you really
God,
think we understand how God did this, or why God is doing it?
if you would understand what I just said, if I would understand what I just said, and rather if I would feel what I just said, I wouldn't be the way I am.
This defeat
And you wouldn't be the way you are. It would be Einaid Mulvadi. There's only a Lukus.
This defeats what we say, if there are two ants talking in Australia, our relation to Hashem is even less than that.
Of course, they're limited creations, we're limited.
And therefore, we sit here for millions of years, discuss how
Millions of
really
years?
we can
5,782, sir.
It's all one. It's all Hashem. This is Hashem.
You know, the story of the Alter Rebbe's Chassid, Benjamin Kletzke. Klotz in Yiddish is wood. He was a big lumber merchant. So his name was Benjamin Kletzke. He was a very great Chassid of the Alter Rebbe. So he was once sitting down making, they didn't have calculators. So he makes a cheshbon of his, and he draws a line, sum total, and he wrote, Einaid Mulvadi. It wasn't a bluff. It wasn't a fake. It wasn't trying to impress somebody. In his world, his business is God. Now, if that's the case, I'll show you in a practical way, okay, and I'll show you why we're not there, okay? In a practical case, if a person believes that business is Einaid Mulvadi, there's no way that business could go in any way against Torah. Forget about doing illegal things, cheating, swindling, bluff. There's no such thing as not davening Shachis Mincha Ma'ariv because of business. There wouldn't be any aspect of a Jew that would be different than business. The fact that a person says, in business I have to act differently than I do in shul, as far as my looks of Yiddishkeit, my identity of Yiddishkeit, whatever it is, that shows automatically that by you there's a difference between shul and business. Shul I dress one way, business I dress another way. That's the difference. If a person would actually feel, and then the person, it's more than that. Then the person also honestly real, and that's verb. We all talk. I talk a lot. It's a bubble mices. Talk is cheap. A person would feel that my parnasa is only a vessel for Hashem's bracha. Meaning like this. The person actually knows, feels. How much I'm going to make is not how much business I'm going to do. How much I'm going to make is what Hashem wants to give me this year. And Rosh Hashanah is destined, right? How much money we're going to make. I need to make a vessel for it. So the vessel has to be a kosher vessel. Now, kosher vessel is a very broad term. It means not cheating this. My business is run the way it needs to be run, completely according to halacha from A to Z. Then that shows that the person realizes that even logic dictates, if you're going to be honest in business, you can't make a living. That you can't make a living, and that's what people think today. If you're honest, you're not going to be able to make a living, and you can go through business after business after business that does false shemaisis.
Some actually advocate the other way around, and both are valid too.
But I'm saying, if the person realizes that the gashmius is really elokus, and my business is really godliness, then there isn't a thing that I won't do what Torah wants me to do. Not in eating and sleeping and in life and in business. It doesn't. Until that happens, that means really, I'm not knocking anything, but people are from, they close Shabbos, it's a big Mesilas Nefesh, of course. But I'm saying, you want to speak reality? Emes liyakov. The emes is, until a person realizes that business is nothing but a vehicle. Nothing else. It's like a microphone that my voice goes through. It is nothing. except amplifying my voice. My business is nothing but amplifying Hashem's bracha to me. And therefore, it can't do anything wrong against Torah. Business ethics, if you think about it, we spoke about this many times. People come to you, they don't do it anymore because they're so used to it. People come to you and say, why do religious people steal? Any people that have business dealing, the religious people, they say, why do they cheat? Why do they steal? They're religious people, why do they cheat? What's the answer? The answer is, religious people don't steal. If the guy steals, he's not religious. If he cheats, he's not religious. Does he appear to be religious? Yeah. But a religious Jew, by definition, can't cheat or steal. He can't, because if he does, he's not religious. I mean, it's bullshit. Religious people don't steal. You ask me, why does a guy that look religious? So now what's the fake? The garments are fake. Not with the action. The actions are real. The garments are fake. So there's no such question why do religious people steal. Because they don't. If they steal, they're not religious. They look religious, they act religious, it's a facade of you, but they're not religious.
There's some people who are observant nowadays. But people